Welcome back. Today we're talking about something called the Dharma Code, and we're going to explore how some really ancient ethics might just be the framework we need for our modern boardrooms.
You see it every day, right? The headlines are just relentless. Financial fraud, massive data breaches, toxic leaders. It feels like this uniquely modern brand of chaos. But what if the playbook to get through all this wasn't written in some fancy business school, but thousands and thousands of years ago in an epic poem?
And that brings us to this central idea, the corporate battlefield. We're going to dig into how today's high-stakes boardrooms look a lot like the ancient epic battlefield of Kurukshetra, from the Indian epic, the Mahabharata. And listen, this isn't just some ancient myth. It's a daily reality for a lot of people. Every single leader eventually faces their own Kurukshetra. You know that moment? That gut-wrenching, stomach-turning choice where hitting your quarterly targets seems to be on a direct collision course with your most basic principles. Well, that's the exact same dilemma that the great warrior Arjun faced right before a massive world-changing battle.
And this, right here, is the absolute heart of the conflict. Arjun turns to his guide, his mentor, Krishna, and asks this question that just echoes through time. It's this ancient paradox, but it's the same one that executives are wrestling with every single day when they have to make a really tough call.
I mean, the parallel is just so direct. It's striking. Look at it. On one side, you have Arjun, who has to fight his own family, people he actually loves, all to restore justice, or dharma. And on the other side, a CEO who has to recall a faulty product, knowing it could tank the company's stock price and its reputation, but it's to save lives. It's literally the same conflict, just on a different battlefield.
Okay, so if the problems are timeless, then what about the people involved? The players? Well, that brings us to these epic leadership archetypes. And I think you're going to be surprised, because these ancient characters, yeah, they're probably sitting in your office right now.
All right, have a look at this list. See who you recognize. You've got Yudhishthira, he's the ethical CEO, but maybe a little too hesitant. Oh, and Duryodhana, he's that power-hungry rival we've all had to deal with at some point. Krishna, now he's the one you want, the strategic, ethical advisor in your corner. Then there's Bhishma, the silent chairman who's just worried about his legacy. You've got Vidura, the chief ethics officer that no one ever listens to. And Draupadi, the fiery advocate fighting for the stakeholders.
So really, in any organization, you've got these two competing voices, almost like an angel and a devil on your shoulder. On one side, there's the Krishna archetype, right? He's focused on dharma, the big picture, the long-term ethical vision. But on the other side, you've got the Shakuni, the internal manipulator. He's the one whispering in your ear, telling you to win at any cost, using tricks, deceit, what the epic calls loaded dice.
And to really get this whole framework, you have to understand Dharma. It's a huge concept. It's so much more than just duty. The best way to think about it is like an ethical North Star. It's your moral compass, the thing that guides your decisions based on what's right and your true purpose, not just the siren song of profit.
So, what happens when you ignore that North Star? When you just toss the compass aside? Well, let's look at a really powerful case study from the epic itself, the dice game. And believe me, it is a stark, stark warning of how a few small ethical slips can snowball into a total systemic collapse. Watch how quickly this escalates. It all starts with a simple, yet shady invitation. The good king, Yudhishthira, feels pressured, obligated to accept a challenge he knows is unjust. Then comes the first bet. He wagers his entire kingdom, totally overconfident, thinking, oh, I can stop whenever I want. But he can't. The bets just spiral, faster and faster, and he loses everything. His brothers, himself. Until he makes the final, horrifying stake. He wagers his wife, Draupadi, as if she were property. And this is the moment the whole rotten system is laid bare. Its moral bankruptcy is just completely exposed. Draupadi is dragged into the court, and she asks this devastatingly simple, logical question to all the powerful elders who just sat there in silence. With that one question, her voice exposes the complete, complicit failure of the entire leadership. Okay, $1.9 billion. Just let that sink in. What in the world is that number?
That was the fine HSBC had to pay for laundering money for drug cartels. A modern-day dice game, right? A series of unbelievably high-stakes gambles where the board, just like those silent elders in the epic, just sat there, passive, while the whole organization spiraled into an ethical catastrophe. The parallels, honestly, they're chilling.
So, the big question is, how do we stop these catastrophic failures from happening? The final piece of the puzzle is all about building our ethical muscle. We can actually turn this ancient wisdom into a modern, actionable plan for leadership today.
A core principle here is something called nishkama karma, which you can think of as detached action. Now, this doesn't mean being passive or not caring at all, not in the slightest. It's the art of focusing only on the quality and rightness of your actions, without being paralyzed by the fear of failure or blinded by the greed for success. It actually frees you up to just do the right thing.
All right, so here's a practical checklist. Let's call it the Dharma way. First up, limit how much power is concentrated in one person's hands. No one should have totally unchecked authority. Second, you have to institutionalize dissent. That means you actively welcome and encourage challenging voices. Third, set up some ethical oversight, a Dharma circle, if you will, to review the big decisions. Fourth, practice the Dharma pause. Just take a beat, a moment of reflection before you act. And finally, and this one is absolutely critical, protect your whistleblowers. You have to make sure the Draupadya in your organization is not just heard, but is safe. And this all circles back to that critical lesson we learned from the silent elder, Bhishma. When it comes to governance, there is no neutral ground. Silence in the face of injustice is not neutrality. It's complicity, plain and simple. Choosing not to act is an action in itself, and usually a pretty destructive one.
So at the end of the day, what's the real measure of a company's success? The most powerful legacy any business can leave behind. It's not going to be found on its balance sheet. It's not the profits. It's the principles.
And that brings us right here to our final thought. Every single organization has a Vidura, that wise, ethical voice that so often nobody listens to. So the question I want to leave you with is this: who is the unheeded Vidura in your boardroom? And are you listening?